Like, I've spent the last 2 days on my lunch break in my fields that I wasn't planning to be, because one of the original core 4 members, a pillar of this franchise, he walked so the new era could run. Marc Gasol is going to have his 33 hung in the rafters. And so Drew and I this morning, Drew messaged me the PR release and immediately said, like I said, we've got to go, because we were there when Zebo got his number retired. We immediately hopped on Ticketmaster and got 4 tickets for Drew and Haley, me and TBD. But we got tickets to be there for it. Yeah, exactly. But I got an extra ticket for somebody out there. Hop in the Discord if you want to go with me. Let me know. Highest bidder wins.
Bidding starts at $50.
That's it, $50.
Nobody's going to pay that.
Nobody's going to pay $50 to hang out with me. Absolutely not. But yeah, man, like, we've got so many memories of Drew and I going to games together. We've watched him on TV. I wrote an article for Grizzly Bear Blues this morning. Shout out to Marc and them giving me that opportunity, just about what everybody. It's at buffcitymedia.co. Again, you can see it there. It's one of the featured articles. Marc, to me, Drew, is like, I grew up a Grizz fan. I'll kind of hog it for a minute, and then I'll shut up and let you talk. But I was originally a Vancouver Grizz fan because of one Bryant Reeves. Was a huge, big. I'm a big, lunky white guy that played the post in middle school and early high school, so I can connect with those guys, right? Bryant Reeves, and then Marc Gasol. When he came in, he was in Lausanne Collegiate School, played some overseas before he got traded. Actually, today, 16 years ago today, became a Memphis Grizzly, and I followed the team from Vancouver. When they came to Memphis, like the greatest day of my middle school life, right? Like, or actually as a freshman in high school in 2001. Wow.
I was in 4th grade.
Shut up, man. God, I knew that was coming. God bless. I just had that moment. Like, here's my moment of being old. Welcome to the $2 Sports Show. But watching Memphis move, the Grizzlies move from Vancouver to Memphis was one of the best days of my life, because the team that I root for is now in my backyard. And so grew up going to games at the Pyramid, and then started going to games at the Forum. And it really came to life for me when Marc got here, right? When Marc came in, and then he joined his 2007 draft classmate, Mike Conley, to form half of the core 4 that ultimately would be the 2 of them plus Zebo and TA. But Marc really revitalized the Grizz, not only for me, but for a large segment of the Mid-South, right? Like, he was kind of the driving force behind that, because nobody could take over a game. Sans Zebo, nobody could take over a game like Marc Gasol could from an offensive or defensive standpoint. I talked about this in the article. Like, I can remember we ultimately lost the game, but I'm falling asleep watching the Grizz. Like, we're supposed to get beat. We're down 3 and to the Spurs, and Marc dribbles through some trees, gets around Tim Duncan, and banks in a 3 from half court. And all of a sudden, I'm awake and I'm all in. Right?
That was an incredible game. Overtime.
We ultimately lost triple overtime. We lost in triple overtime, but won in over. He won a game against the Spurs in overtime in the playoffs. Marc was a big reason we went to the Western Conference Finals. Marc, Big Spain, when he was dominant, he was truly the Wendigo of the Native American folklore. Just like, that's a deep nickname there, man. Yeah, man. Like, he was just this, like, he had this alter ego that when he would turn it on, and, I complained about him on Twitter a lot. I was looking through some old tweets today about Marc and just like wanting him to be more aggressive. But when he was offensively, defense was never an issue. Right. But when he was aggressive on offense, he was a walking bucket, man. Just that mid-range, like, elbow shot was just lethal. And so I'm just going to be honest with you. Again, Uncle Buck and I have tickets for April the 6th. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in my feels. I'm going to have some water in me that night. So I'm sure I'll be real nostalgic and just making, like, I'm going to be in my feels watching Marc and these guys on the court, just celebrating a guy that really set this franchise up for success, right? He mentored Triple J, and really has been just a good pillar for the community as well. Not only Memphis, but basketball at large. And so shout out to one of my favorite players, Marc Gasol. Thank you for what you did for us, man. And again, check out my article on Grizzly Bear Blues to see what exactly he meant to the franchise as the most decorated player in our history.
Yeah. I mean, you summed it up really well, Buckets. When I started being a Grizzlies fan, it was the core 4 era. I graduated high school in 11. I think it's probably about the time I started really watching the Grizzlies. And now I watched the NBA as a whole. I was a real big Steve Nash fan back in the day. About the time he got traded to the Lakers, and I said, I'm done with you. It was about the time I jumped over to the Grizzlies, and I've been here ever since. But yeah, he was always a member of those teams growing up, and it was frustrating because, you did have those times where it was like, hey man, just be the guy. But there was one thing about Marc Gasol you could always count on, and is that he was always locked in. He always was, Mike Conley was the conductor, is what they call it. Marc Gasol was equally that to this team. He was the heart and soul. He was the he was the organized teammate. He got that. He was such a Eurobasket kind of basketball player. He was
so smart,
cerebral,
so
and
smart.
He knew what you were doing before you knew what you were doing, and it came to fruition so many times on the defensive end to the point to where he was the NBA Defensive Player of the Year in 2013, I believe.
The 12-13 season, he was the first European-born Defensive Player of the Year, which is a big deal.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. But he was just so instrumental to that team. He was the backbone. He was the backline of defense. He was the scorer if you needed him, but then he was always so eager to get better scores, better looks. He was never willing to be the guy to step up. He was always like, okay, I will pass up this decent shot for an amazing shot by a cutting TA or Zebo on the block or a Mike wide open three. Like, he was just such a smart player, and he was the kind of player that elevated everybody else around him. He was a true point guard down low because of how
100%.
smart he played the game. My favorite memory of Zebo, and you talked about the two buzzer beaters, one to force it to overtime against San Antonio, the other one to win it against San Antonio, both of those in the playoffs. The one that I can remember to my dying day was staying up late at my parents' house upstairs in our game room, and it was a 9:30 tip against the Clippers, and it was like the fierce rivalry. It was
the heat
of the Flop City Clippers, and he drained that corner three with just seconds to go, and he hit Conor McGregor $1 million strut, and I can see myself from above, like in memory, stomping, jumping, and then strutting across right in front of the TV, just mimicking Marc Gasol in my parents' game room. That's my favorite memory of Marc, because when he did it, he wasn't like Manu Ginobili. Like, I don't remember any time Manu Ginobili or Tony Parker, these other European greats, ever having much swagger. But Marc, when he hit it, he would have that swagger, and he'd have that oomph about him. And when he hit that shot in LA against the Clippers in a regular season game and hit that $1 million strut, I was fit to be tied. Man, I was about to jump out the window. Like,
I still hate those Clippers.
Marc Gasol. Yeah.